So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathy Miratello. I am Vice President on the Executive Board in charge of programs, these monthly meetings that we hold. I'm very pleased to introduce our guest speakers. We have two gentlemen who are affiliated with the Greenbuilt Alliance and the Blue Horizons Project, and I think you're going to find their presentations fascinating. Let me begin by first introducing you to someone who is you'll see him on campus wearing a Givens name tag because he is a member of Givens Choice. His name is Brad Rouse. He worked for 20 years developing long-range planning studies and computer software for utility companies. He's been studying energy economics for over 40 years and holds a bachelor's in economics from Yale University. He received his MBA from UNC Chapel Hill, and he practiced for over 10 years as a certified financial planner. Brad is deeply involved in local and national efforts around energy transition. He volunteers with the Citizens Climate Lobby on state and federal legislation and has served as a member of the Blue Horizons Project Community Council. He is joined today by Jamie Wine. Jamie joined Greenbuilt Alliance in the spring of 2022. He is deeply committed to community empowerment through education, fighting the climate crisis, and bringing environmental peace to disadvantaged communities. While an executive decision is often easier, he believes a collaborative approach yields a more satisfying result. It's interesting, it mirrors something that we're finding here as a resident association working with our administration. Jamie studied marine biology and environmental studies at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and holds professional certifications in building performance, leadership development, public speaking, and real estate. When he's not at Greenbuilt Alliance, Jamie likes to spend time with his partner, his daughter, and 3 dogs on hikes at the playground or splashing in the creek. So please help me welcome Brad and Jamie.
Thank you so much for letting us speak today, and thank you, Jerry and the Resident Association for the honorarium that you've given to the Greenbuilt Alliance. We'll definitely be putting it to good use and in the days to come. We've got a lot of good projects with a lot of good places for that to go. Let's just start off with my personal story, because it's the story of, okay, how did we get here? What is this all about? What are we doing? I'd kind of gotten very concerned about climate in the later stages of my career, and in the late 2010s, I don't know what you call that, the noughts or whatever, but I guess like a lot of you, I watched the Inconvenient Truth movie, and that was an eye-opener. I started digging into it, became to see, and I followed, and James, how many of you have actually heard of James Hansen? Okay, we got a few hands. He's probably the world's most renowned historical climate scientist who rang the bell. And he's saying today that things are worse than he thought, that the climate is more sensitive to carbon than he thought, and it's just more important than ever that we do the things that we need to do now to reduce our carbon emissions. So, all of that is where we are today. I kind of came to that realization. And in 2015, my wife Karen and I moved to Asheville, and I started to try to get, really in my retirement, I'd sold my business actually to focus on climate, so to come here and see what we could do in terms of the climate movement and the climate activities here. So I got very involved in a number of things, and one of those actually was a chance very early on to meet Julie Mayfield. Some of you may know Julie. She's our state senator and in Raleigh, and was head of Mountain True, and is a good friend. I found out through the press or whatever that the city and county were fighting this coal plant down at Lake Julian that's now been converted to a gas plant. There was a big controversy about that, and Julie was in the thick of it with Mountain True, and that was kind of coming to an end, and she told me about a project that was going to be happening, which was a collaboration between Duke Energy, Buncombe County, and the city of Asheville. This was 2016 or so, and I said, well, gee, and you guys are going off to Colorado and Rocky Mountain Institute. How many of you have heard of Rocky Mountain Institute? They are one of my, well, Amory Lovins, their founder, is one of my climate heroes for sure. But they are one of the leaders in developing practical solutions on climate change. So City of Asheville and Buncombe County and Duke all went together and joined a conference, and they were going to be going to some resort in Colorado, and I was like, Julie, can I come, please? I told her all about my background in utility industry planning, my background with Duke, having served as a consultant to Duke for a number of years. And she said, no, I think our attendance is all set, but we're going to have a collaboration that gets started, and I'll be sure that you're on the mailing list. And so that began my work with what became the Energy Innovation Task Force, or what we called is the EITF. And the goal of the EITF was to avoid a new peaker plant at Lake Julian and to start to move Buncombe County towards a cleaner energy future. We had about 20 or so people. We met monthly. Brownie Newman and Julie Mayfield were the co-chairs, and it was really quite a privilege to serve with them. And we accomplished a lot. I don't know, I was out yesterday and I noticed the county garage down across from the courthouse, a new solar installation on top of the county garage, which is an outgrowth of part of the efforts, along with the solar that you might see on the libraries and all around town. That was an outgrowth of really the county's commitment to try to push forward on this Energy Innovation Task Force, move us forward towards a clean energy future. So what happened was the county and the city established a goal for achieving 100% renewable energy by 2030, and for the county and facilities and operations. And so, and then another 100% renewable goal for the community to reach 100% renewable energy by 2042. And it passed, a resolution passed the county commission. They chartered a consulting study as part of that. Meanwhile, the Energy Innovation Task Force was meeting. Consulting group developed the climate action plan for the county and city. But the county, the task force decided it was time to merge into a different kind of organization, and thus began what we're now working on, which is the Blue Horizons Project. Duke had hired a consultant, or had paid for a consulting firm to come in and do like a marketing study, and after a lot of effort, they came up with the name Blue Horizons Project, and that is kind of how we are where we are today. The Blue Horizons Project is a community collaboration to move to 100% renewable energy, and the Energy Innovation Task Force transitioned to the Blue Horizons Project Community Council, which is composed of representatives of the community, plus also a representative from Duke. Then Maggie Ullman, who's a city councilwoman, is on the project, and Parker Sloan has taken over Brownie's position, and he's one of the county commissioners, as well as regular appearances by staff from Buncombe County. And so our goal with the Blue Horizons Project is the county facilities are, and that goal for 2030 is being handled by the city and county staff now. And the goal of this group is to focus on the community transition. We've kind of sort of starting to rename it 100% clean energy, so you can say renewable energy, you can say clean energy. Clean energy, we could get into that if we want to get into the weeds later, but we're kind of saying clean energy today, but it's to get to that goal by 2042, which is a very audacious goal. I think, honestly, if you look at James Hansen's work, it's the kind of goal that we need to have in order to solve the climate crisis. But we're hard at work. Now, in that in that work, it's basically a community effort. Jamie is sort of the staff person with the Greenbelt Alliance that's coordinating all of these things. Most of the people on it are volunteers, or they work with their organizations to be part of this effort. In 2022, we decided we wanted to update the city and county's strategic plan. For some reasons, we thought it needed to be updated for the community goal. So we created a new strategic plan. So I'm going to talk to you about the strategic plan briefly here. Next slide. Okay, good. First thing we did is we looked at energy use in Buncombe County and kind of, it's a little bit old. It's 2019 data, which was the last year we got data from Dominion and Duke. But we said, okay, where are we starting from, more or less? And if you look at the left-hand side of the, up there, the one on the left, that shows the total energy sector use of energy. So it includes the fossil fuel use of each sector of the economy in Buncombe County and electricity. So it includes, for example, the gray is commercial, the red is residential, the blue is industrial, and the whatever, I'm colorblind, so I think that's orange or something like orange. But transportation is the big one. Unlike other countries, unlike other parts of the country, transportation use, we think, really dominates the energy in Buncombe County because we don't have big, heavy industrial plants here. That's mostly our gas that we drive around in, or it actually, 2019, there wasn't much electric cars on the road at that point in time. And that's actually going to be a data problem going forward. The slide on the left shows in developing the strategic plan, we said, okay, well, let's split that, look at that a different way. How much of this is electricity and how much of it is direct fossil fuel use in each of these sectors? Now, we have a chart that shows how much electricity is used in industry, residential, and commercial, but I don't show that here. And what it shows is that electricity use is 23% of our energy in the county. 45% transportation, that was all gas back in 2019. And then the others are residential customers who use gas or oil, commercial, industrial. That's how that breaks down. Next slide. So what we did is, how are we going to get to 100% renewable energy given that energy use? And we basically came up, did a lot of reading. I have written a book, and that's got a few copies back in the back. I'm going to donate a copy to the Gibbons Library. I guess I'm officially a Gibbons person, so I can be a Gibbons author, hopefully. The idea is that I have learned is the way that we can make this transition for Buncombe County and for the country as a whole is basically to, it's not 100% exact, but is to convert the grid to 100% clean energy, electrify all of these disparate uses of fossil fuels, 100% to electricity. So that includes all your cars, all your heating, all your cooking, all your industrial processes. All of those convert to electricity. And I say it's not everything because we don't have good solutions to convert everything to electricity, but most things. For example, we still are working on air transportation, and especially intercontinental jets. We don't have a battery yet that'll fly a jet that far, but it could be coming. And then to sort of intersect with all of those is to embrace efficiency. So we just make things more efficient. We insulate homes, we weather strip, we get cars that, whether they're gas or electric, they go more per unit of energy, and that's really what's involved. And so we kind of come up, and that's what we call our technical pathway to 100% clean energy. Next slide, please. And so how does that get us there? And this is a complicated slide, so just look at a couple of elements of it, because we don't have time to really dig into it. The first on the leftmost column is where we are today. And the red is transportation. The orange is, I think, industrial, fossil, direct fossil. It really connects with that previous two slides with the circle where it broke everything out, where electricity is its own part, and this electricity of 3032 terawatt hours is 3.03 terawatt hours, or 3,000 gigawatt hours, is what we use for electricity. And so the plan, first of all, if you go to the right, that's kind of our forecast of where we would be business as usual for the first column, from the first column to the second. Third column over is if we embrace efficiency. So we get more efficient, we can drive that down a little bit. Because remember, even in the business as usual plan, the second one, there's a lot of efficiency that's already there. And then the fourth one is the one that's key, because even though it's not all in blue, that third stacked column is all electricity. So a tremendous amount of gains are available in terms of energy use by converting it to 100% electricity. This is what many of the people that study this are saying. This is a lot of what's behind the Inflation Reduction Act, is the idea of promoting electrification. Then, so if you convert, and electricity is just so much more efficient, because when you directly use fossil fuel, there's a tremendous amount of waste. There's waste when you drive a gas car. There's a tremendous amount of energy waste when you heat a house directly with natural gas. With modern electric capabilities, you can dramatically reduce that waste, sometimes by a factor of 3, 4, and in some cases even 7 times more efficient with electricity. So that's basically the plan. We can do it, and it requires basically a doubling of the electric grid in Buncombe County, but we won't be using gas. We won't have a gas pipeline. It'll all be electric, maybe with a few things that aren't quite electric. Whether we can do this by 2042 is another question, which it's a goal to strive for one way or the other. Next slide. But what we also looked at is, well, how do we move the community to start doing this? And that was really the most important thing. And we said we take a whole systems approach, which is we engage the community, we make policy changes, and we adopt what we call a series of initiatives, which are discrete efforts that there are 6 categories of initiatives that we came up with: residential and commercial efficiency, residential and commercial renewable energy, large energy users, transportation efficiency. There's just a series of areas that I'd call initiatives. And actually, one of the things we do in the Blue Horizons Project is we have an initiatives committee that Jerry Meyer here is working with me on. And we, in the initiatives that we've done, we've kind of classified Jerry's work here at Deerfield and all of your work in the environmental committee here as what I'd call a large energy user initiative, where one energy user gets together and we focus in on that energy user and what can they do. So it's very early in the process, and we'll go over some of those other initiatives. Policy changes, obviously, a lot of policy needs to change because all the policy pieces are not in place nationally, statewide, to make this happen, or locally. So we've identified a number of policy changes. And finally, community engagement, which is really the core. We don't have a lot of money for this initiative. A lot of it's volunteer. So a lot of it is coming out and doing, well, what I'm doing right here, which is talk to people, enlist people, get people on with the goal, to ask the questions and to move forward. And maybe we get money that we can spend, but maybe not. So next slide. And this really just is just one slide of a community engagement where we're out tabling, where we go to speak to groups. We're doing one community engagement initiative we're doing right now is we've got one person on the team that's very excited about moving her consulting business into the area of breweries. And so we are actively participating in Brewery Week, excuse me, tongue tie. And maybe I had one that I didn't know about. They're doing an event at Wicked Weed in May. I think that we're going to have a table and we're going to sponsor the food. And that's the kind of thing where we're out there. We had a proposal that we didn't get selected from DOE where we were going to try to electrify some of the brewery processes. But that was another initiative that didn't go anywhere. We needed money. And, but breweries are very supportive of green. A lot of them have gone green, but they're still using a lot of natural gas to actually brew the beer. And that's one of the main areas where we could make a big difference down the road. And then that the tabling and the community engagement needs to lead to action. And that's Kelvin actually over there looking at a heat pump. But Kelvin is our Blue Horizons project, or the Greenbelt Alliance manager of Energy Savers Network, which is an initiative of the Greenbelt Alliance and of the Blue Horizons Project, which goes into homes to help low-income people save on energy costs. We've done over 1,000 homes, and I started that as a volunteer activity a number of years back, but it's morphed into way more than I can really take credit for other than just starting it. Next slide. These are some of our other initiatives, and I'll just go over some of them briefly. Neighbor to Neighbor Solar, we got some money, and we go into low-income homes and actually provide solar to low-income members. And Jamie, how many have we done? Well, 20 or 30, 40, somewhere in that range. 25. And that's a program that we may expand with some federal funding down the road, hopefully. Energy Savers Network, with maybe the idea of expanding that. We're doing about 200 homes a year. We have volunteer teams that go out 4 days a week. We have a crew. We have a couple of trucks that go out. We go into a home. We do a single-day blitz of energy-saving work that you can do in one day. But there's so much more that we could do with those clients, and figuring out how to do that is one of our initiatives. Electrify Asheville Buncombe is a really exciting initiative. That's starting actually this week. We are just creating a website and a marketplace, I guess, for people to connect with heating and air conditioning contractors that want to work with us. And there's more. We could go into all of these. We don't have time, so let's go to the next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Jamie now, Executive Director, Co-Executive Director of the Greenbelt Alliance, and he's going to handle the last two, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. All that stuff kind of bums me out. I feel really overwhelmed, and Brad did a great job of outlining the problem and some of the initiatives that are going on, and they're complicated and collaborative and taking a lot of energy and time. And so what I try to do to get out of that zone of being a little overwhelmed is getting into the now. What can I do now? And what can I do for me and my habits and things I'm doing? What can I do in my circles to help make a difference? And that makes me feel better. I bet y'all could relate with that, right? You do a little something, it feels a little better. You wouldn't be here if it didn't feel better, right? So here's some of the things you can do to make a difference, and also some positive change towards these goals in your own life. And I want to emphasize something that Brad said in his presentation that was hard for me to get my mind around, is that electrifying everything is a huge portion of how we get to 100% renewable energy. That when you look at it at a natural gas furnace and it has 98% efficiency, well, the corresponding heat pump has 400% efficiency. So while you're talking about it's only 2% away from 100, the technology of electrification is basically free energy from the environment. It's pretty cool. But I won't go into that. I'm gonna go back to the feelings. So the things that you can do is advocate for, or in your own homes if it's possible. I know we're at Gibbons, so not necessarily always possible. But in your own homes, electrify your water, heat, your air heating and cooling, and your transportation. So if you can work on electrifying those things, thinking of a plan to do it now, it's an urgent thing you need to work on, and then take an action in the next 10 years when it happens. When you call to fix your furnace, when they come in, they're gonna wanna be like, hey, we wanna switch it out with the gas furnace because it's what you already got. And you have to be ready to be like, whoa, guys, I want a heat pump. What's that gonna take? And you have to start planning for that. Same thing with your water heater, and same thing with your transportation. In a facility like this, dealing with charging an electric vehicle is really important in long-term planning. And it can be as simple as a whole bunch of 110-volt outlets that people can plug into, and as complicated as a network of tier 3 and tier 4, tier 2 and tier 3 chargers that can charge vehicles very quickly. So think about advocating for electrifying those things in your lives, the lives of others here at Givens. And then the other part is just using less, right? So embracing efficiency. And then nowadays, the solar doesn't pay off as well unless you also add storage, and battery prices are starting to come down, hopefully sooner rather than later. It's going a little slower on that front than we want it to. But yeah, electrify everything, embrace efficiency, and then start working on changing your mind. I live with my Aunt Tina. She is 61 this year. She's very excited about it. She's gonna make me take her snorkeling. She does not like my turkey chili at all. So she makes me make her beef chili. But I did get my 9-year-old and I got my wife on the turkey chili. These ladies are from South Dakota. This is not really what they do. They're really into the beef. So changing folks' mind and like cooking good things that don't have beef in them and maybe have a different poultry or maybe not meat at all, it goes a long way to reducing your impact on carbon. Buy less stuff, that's kind of a no-brainer. And then this one's kind of hard for me too. Instead of thinking about, oh, I want to go to Fiji and get on a plane, you think, oh, I want to go to the Outer Banks and take a drive. You know, changing your idea of what a vacation is, what an escape is. And that's hard. I mean, you got these dreams that are all built up. I studied marine biology. I want to go to the Red Sea. I want to see all these corals. And it's like, well, maybe I'll do that someday. Maybe I'll keep that dream there. But in the meantime, I want to be happy now, doing things local. And that's a challenge. That's a hard thing to do. Last slide, please. I think it's the last slide. Is it the last slide? So I put a QR code on here. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do, and if you click the QR code, it'll take you to that spot. I don't know if you're into that. We also have stuff on the back table. So you can take action now to help in the community do more stuff towards this. Brad mentioned Energy Savers Network. That's like hands-on, doing weatherization, replacing light bulbs, doing weather, like air sealing and weather stripping. And what happens when you do that is you're not just raising someone else up in the community, you're increasing your level of knowledge about how to do it at your own house. You go home and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a big old gap there. I know how to fix that now. So it's kind of cool because like you can bring it into your own life. And the people that work on it, when they came to my house, I rent a place, they can't sit still. They want to fix everything. And I'm like, guys, we're just having a beer. Everyone calm down. But they want to fix everything. It gets in your mind. Definitely, the Greenbelt Alliance is the nonprofit where I work. We love your support. If you'd like to give, we appreciate the honorarium today. But we just got a donation the other day from Qualified Charitable Distribution. I'm sure y'all know about this, but as you get older, you have to take distributions in your IRA. I was like, oh, that's cool. You can give it to a charity. So if you want to work on this, please apply that money and those resources to this work. And then, of course, advocacy and the policy front. And that's a lot of what Brad talked about. The biggest thing in North Carolina that's so tough is the building code. It's 20 years old, and so we haven't updated it, and it's a big political fight. Super frustrating. But please get involved in that. There was a carbon plan hearing last night from Duke Energy downtown. And, of course, vote and get engaged here. So that's like being part of the community piece. So when I feel despair, doing this stuff helps me feel better, and you can too. I think that's the last slide, yeah? Next slide. Oh, there it is. Thank you very much.